Remember to click like, subscribe, the bell notification, and whatever else YouTube has you clicking on to support us. What's up, everyone? I am not the Kaiju no Kami today. For this video, I am Marcus. Yes, I am part of the Toku and Animation News Network, but this video is not about Toku or animation. This is the first video in a series that I am calling Let's Talk, which is on any subject matter that I may think of at that time that I may want to share, may want to discuss, and all that good stuff. So for my first episode for let's talk about why I quit being a teacher. I do have here a paper with notes on it, just to make sure that I know that I'm covering these aspects that I want to talk about. But what was it like being a teacher? It was fun, it was stressful, it was frustrating, especially when you had terrible administration, when you didn't get support from other teachers or parents that you needed, and it was not worth it. I mean, it was worth it, but not worth it at the same time, if that makes any sense. Yes, money is definitely an issue as a teacher. As a teacher, you get paid shit, especially for having a master's degree. All that schooling costs so much money, and you didn't get really rewarded for what you were going into. Getting a full-time teaching job was a nightmare. Like, they told us, whenever you hear these things that say, oh, there's all this teacher shortage, what they really mean is, in the very random areas of the state that nobody wants to live, we can't get somebody to have a teaching job out there. If you're in the main cities, you may be competing with 50, 60, 70, in one case, 82 different people. So when they tell you there's a teacher shortage, it's most likely not true unless you're in an area that nobody wants to live in. Then that specific area has a shortage, but that's not the whole state. So let's see, where should I begin? Well, I was a substitute teacher for many years. I did student teaching in my master's degree program. I was a substitute teacher, which was kind of fun. It was like a sampler pack. You went to a school, and if there was a school you didn't like, it was like, you know what? I'm not going back to that school. Now, one of the things is, kids are kids. Kids are going to act the way they are raised. So my mindset wasn't really, I'm not going to go back because of that student. My mindset for school was, I am not going to go back because that school treated me like crap. I had one school in Denver Public Schools that I get in there and the secretary is not there. Someone steps in and is like, oh, well, they should have been here 15 minutes ago. And then the secretary finally comes in, is just talking on her phone about what she did over the weekend. About maybe another several minutes goes by and she's like, oh, can I help you? I say, oh, I'm here to sub for so-and-so. Oh, she's out today? Well, I don't have a key, so I'm going to call for maintenance to open up the door for you. Sure, fine, whatever. Didn't seem like a problem until we had a lockdown going on later on that day, and I don't have keys to lock the door. So I say to one of the teachers out in the hallway, hey, I don't have keys to lock the door. The teacher's response, not my problem, and he goes into his classroom and shuts the door. The kids I'm subbing for start freaking out. They're third graders, and they're like, oh my God, we're gonna die. It's a lockdown. You need to lock the door during a lockdown. So I never went back to that school. And that specific situation was not repeated at other schools, but there were various other situations that were the same. There was in Douglas County when I was subbing for them. There was a principal that another sub next to me sent a kid to the office. The kid came back a little bit later. The principal pulled the sub out and said, if he's the son of a Broncos player, so you are not to send him to the office for any reason. If you don't like it, you can go home. And the sub was like, fine, you need me more than I need you, so I will go home. And the principal was like, I can't believe you just said that. And I'm sorry, but if the student is the son of a Broncos player, which the Broncos are a football team if you don't know football, then shouldn't they be the role model of the classroom? I have seen principals without principals. Principals who will pull a teacher into the hallway to discipline them in the middle of anyone that happens to be walking by at that time. I have seen principals that will put their teachers in tears over an evaluation. Both of these occurred at a school called Coyote Creek. I'm not going to go all out in schools, but I will say that I witnessed a lot of stuff at that school that was just disgusting. Then the principal got mad at me and I was like, nope, I am not putting up with this bullshit. I do not get paid for this toxicity. I just simply won't go to your school anymore, which was kind of a shame because I enjoyed teaching the students there. I enjoyed the teachers that were there, but that principal just made that school a toxic environment, and I'm surprised that teachers did not leave by the dozen daily, not even waiting for the school year to end, just like quit. But whatever. So I sub, I create the channel, and I'm like, well, I'm going to split this 50-50. Instead of trying to apply for jobs, full-time teaching positions, I'm just going to split my time between the channel and subbing. Well, then a couple years ago, I was like, you know what? Let me try doing full-time teaching again. So I get a teaching position at a school, and here's the thing I learned about teaching full-time. You are not trained properly to go into a classroom to teach full-time. Okay, classroom management is already hard enough, but when you're your first year teaching full-time, have 28 kids in your classroom, and you have administration that is either too scared to discipline kids, too scared to do whatever, it makes it hard to teach. I had students who would have a meltdown every time we had a pronouns lesson in literacy. And it was ridiculous because we would spend like 10 minutes trying to get those kids calmed down so I could actually teach. Did I have any support on that? Not really. I had a student in that class who was homophobic. He would make hate speech, and he was very he had a lot of viewpoints that were pretty like, man, dude, who taught you that? And I felt so bad for him because I'm trying to teach him how to be a good person. I really wanted to help him out, and he just didn't want it. So one thing I learned though is schools care more about test scores, quotas, filling checkboxes, and their image of their school than they do on what a student actually needs to succeed. And that was the biggest thing that really disgusted me. There are these things called read plans and MTSS forms or RTI forms, response to intervention, for like difficult students. I never learned about these when I did my master's program. My master's program was on a lot of philosophies of teaching, ideology of teaching, but never actually how to create lesson plans, but never actually on stuff you need to know in the actual classroom. Like, we had a class on English language learners, and I learned nothing outside of, okay, so basically the only way to teach English language kids who are English language learners is to do it based on the situation. There is no way to prepare for this in advance. Cool. Not really. So doing a master's program didn't do anything to actually teach me how to have classroom management. What read plans are. Read plans are these things that you're supposed to do to help kids who are struggling with reading, that are behind, and you're supposed to do all these things to help them out on top of your normal teaching day. There isn't... the one thing that's funny is that all these people are like, oh, teachers are teaching this and that about CRT, and that's not supposed to be taught in the classroom, and this isn't supposed to be taught in the classroom. Teachers don't even have time to actually teach the material they're supposed to teach. They are not teaching your kids things that you don't want them to know about because we don't have time. If it's not in the curriculum, we're not teaching it, other than trying to get that student to understand to be a good person. So there is no training for read plans and MTSS forms, and in the 2 years, nobody could truly explain to me what these things do. They couldn't train me on how to actually do them properly. All it really felt like was that these forms were a checkbox, so the school could say, yes, we've done this. And I hated that. I felt like it was a complete disservice to the students because I'm more concerned about trying to do this text box or checkbox than I am on what they truly need to succeed. And the lessons sometimes didn't gear towards what they should focus on. Fourth graders have certain things that, okay, they don't know this, so how can I teach this to them? Well, you can do this, but the lessons were never detailed enough to truly help them. There was no true outcome. And then, last year, I got told by my assistant principal at the school I was working at, because I had some difficulties with classroom management. I was given a very difficult group of kids. One who had been homeschooled his entire life, was in a school for the first time ever, had no idea what socialization was, no social awareness, and this individual was kind of violent, would verbally and physically assault students. And I asked for help. The help was them coming in and doing I'm basically filling out an observation form on what's going on. That was the help all the time throughout the school year. That's all they ever did was fill out a form. I made suggestions. Oh, well, we can't do that because I was like, look, this student needs to be in an aggressive needs classroom. Well, there's no schools available that individual can go to, and we don't have enough data to prove that they need to be that. They're hitting kids. They're constantly talking about a kid's dead mother all the time, and I'm just supposed to be okay with that. But I was the one getting written up for their behavior, which was bullshit. Now, and I asked for help, whatever. So then they have a teacher come in for 1 week to help me with classroom management. Teacher's like, you're doing everything fine. And some of the stuff that I did, I based on what that teacher that I had subbed for many, many times. I'm being told what I'm doing is fine. I have a meeting with the assistant principal who then tells me we haven't seen enough improvements since having that teacher in there, and having another teacher coming into your classroom to help you with management is a rarity. It's unheard of. You should be feeling fortunate that happened. So I was like, wait a minute. You're telling me there is no on-the-job training for this? For my job, there's nothing telling me how to do stuff in the classroom? Why do we have these monthly days of teacher work days if we're not going to ever get training on how to actually teach in the classroom? And communication is another big thing. If there's no communication, then what? Then there's like, people are like, well, what's going on? Don't know. So, there was that part. Then we have another big issue with teaching, are cliques. The first school I worked at full time had a major clique problem. Grade level teams would only sit or only work with the people they were supposed to, that were part of their comfort zone, their grade team. Even when the principal said, I don't want you to sit with your grade team for this meeting, most of them are like, well, I don't care. I'm going to sit with my grade team. But the cliques were disgusting because if you're not part of the clique then they don't want you at that school. They don't want you in their team. And when you have people like that on the hiring committee, that's a conflict of interest, at least from my point of view. So cliques are a big issue. The other school I worked at didn't have too much of a clique issue, which was nice. Everyone was helpful. You go to any teacher for assistance and they were all willing to help you. They weren't like, oh, no, you're not part of my grade level, go away. And another frustrating issue with teaching is report cards. Not the filling out the report cards themselves, but the report cards here in Colorado have 4 groups: exceeds, meets, does not meet, and what was the 4th one? Oh my God, I can't remember the 4th one. But you weren't allowed to use the lowest level one. You had to have data to back up, to give proof why they got that one, why they were given a basically 1, 2, 3, or 4. That's the way to do it. If you wanted a 1, you had to have data to prove that they have a 1 and had a meeting with the parents and the principal to prove why they would deserve a 1 on the report card. And if they didn't do any work, you still weren't allowed to give them a 1. Oh no, you don't have any proof that they deserve a 1. Well, they didn't do the work all semester. It doesn't matter. If you don't have any proof that they deserve a 1, you can't give them a 1. That's kind of asinine. What's the point of it then if you can't actually use it? You can't even be honest on the report card because it will make the school look bad. Speaking of making a school look bad, last year there was a parents that wanted to hold their student back, have them repeat the grade level. And we're in this meeting and the principal seems pretty mad about it. She does not want to go with this. She's hoping that myself and the other 4th grade teacher are going to just say, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. The parents made a pretty good argument about it. The principal's like, okay, well, I'll approve it. And after the parents walked away, the principal says, well, it's a good thing they said that they're going to send that person to a different school. Otherwise, I wouldn't have approved of it. Because once again, it would have made their school look bad if they had a student being held back. Again, they don't care about what a student actually needs if it's going to affect their school's self-image. That's not the purpose of a school. Oh, and then basically schools are afraid to be sued. If you want to get your child a good grade, tell the school you either give them a good grade or I'm going to sue you. Because they will instantly say, just give them the good grade. Bullying is an issue, but schools won't do anything about it because they're afraid to get sued. It disgusts me of how much bullying will go on, and you're a teacher who tries to do something and nobody wants to help you out administration-wise because they're afraid of getting sued. Sometimes they might go, okay, that was severe enough, we're going to do an in-school suspension, but very rarely would they do full suspensions because there's so many quotas. There's so many check boxes to go through, and even detention is an issue. I had one school in Denver where I was told by the person I had to go in when I was subbing to report to that I had these students that weren't paying attention in class, were acting up. I couldn't give them detention because I was a substitute teacher. So those kids just kept on misbehaving the way they were. And then the school was shocked to learn when I said I did not want to come back. I was not allowed to give them detention because I'm a sub. Then how about you give them detention but based on why I say they should get detention. There was a student who I mentioned earlier that was bullying other kids. I was getting written up for it. I ended up having to go on administrative leave in February of this past February because of a mistake that occurred, and I was put on administrative leave. And then they were like, "Oh well, according to these reports, the principal wants you gone because you are running an unsafe classroom." Yeah, because I had this student who was physically and verbally abusing students, and now he is sexually assaulting students. This student grabbed another student's private parts, and all the school did was move one of the students to another classroom. That was it. But I was the one running an unsafe classroom. And so I was put on administrative leave for a month. And they were like, yeah, so your options are you can either quit and that's it. You can then apply for jobs next school year, or we can do an investigation and then terminate you. But then if we terminate you, it may affect your licensure for the state from now on. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. So you're telling me that I asked for help, I'm in trouble for asking for help, and the principal wants to terminate me when I was trying to do the best I could. You know what? I want this investigation because this student has been harassing people. They're sexually assaulting people, and nothing's getting done. I asked for help. This is a less than stellar principal, and all this stuff happened. And finally, after a month, they let me go back, but I had to have another person in the room with me because they didn't trust me to be on my own. For their ineptitude. Meanwhile, nothing really is getting done. Finally, in April, they hire like a security person to escort this student around the school when they need to go to the bathroom or need to go to lunch or are not, basically is going to be on their own, because this student could not actually go and be on their own the entire school year because of their behavior. So they hired a security person in April. School started in August. And that security person decided at the beginning of May, the money is not worth it. I am out of here. And then they hired basically a personal assistant for this student in May, like 3 weeks before the school year ended. And even that person was having difficulty. But the problem is the school wouldn't do anything. But it was the teacher's fault if something went wrong. My teammate was getting blamed for things. The student, because they moved the student to that person's room. And one day, the student put their desk in front of the door so nobody could leave this classroom, which is completely unsafe. That teacher got yelled at for calling the office for support when, hello, that is a safety issue. Once again, they were afraid of being sued. They were afraid of getting of looking bad. And it was ridiculous. And that's not even the worst of it. Well, that's the worst thing. That's when I was like, you know what? I completely don't want to have anything to do with teaching anymore because this is ridiculous. We are not doing anything that should be done to help a student. We are completely caring more about the quotas, the checkboxes, the test scores. Schools get dinged if parents opt their child out of doing the standardized tests. That's ridiculous. That is freaking ridiculous. How is it the school's fault that the parents don't want that student taking the test. But one thing I forgot to mention is the previous school year, we're at a training because there's a new literacy program. And we're at this training at another school on one of our work days. And 2 other schools, this program, because it's completely brand new, we're getting training because we're the first year doing it. And teachers are mad because they can't just use what they know. Well, they have to teach through this new method. And they're pissed because, heaven forbid, a teacher has to learn how to actually teach something brand new. Like, you can't, it happens all the time at every job. You can't just be stuck in your ways. You have to be open to always doing new things, new methods. And this new program, which, yes, it did have issues, but it was very well structured. As a first year teacher, it was phenomenal to have actual structured lessons. Like, okay, I teach this, I teach this, I teach this, and that was good. That was fantastic for a first year teacher, but you have all these teachers like, well, no, this is wrong. This should not be this way. So we're at this training, and the lady who's the trainer is going over stuff, and teachers from other schools start belittling the trainer lady, putting her in tears, calling the program stupid, that they don't know what they're doing. And this lady leaves, and like, how about we take a 15-minute break and then we'll start back up. She leaves, and one of the teachers says, oh great, she's gonna go tattletale on us now. Like, why shouldn't she? It's bullshit what you just did. And then a couple months later, we were meeting with the middle school that the kids all go to. And I'm telling the middle school teacher why, the benefits of this program, of what I've worked with them, what I liked about the program. And one of the teachers says to me, excuse me, I know that you're fine with this program, but you're just a first year teacher. And then says, let me tell you why this program sucks. I'm sorry, does being a first year teacher change anything? Does it make my opinion any less valid than yours, you frickin' So yes, there was a lot of unprofessional behavior, and that was one of my key things that I was like, before even last school year happened, where I was like, oh my God, do I even want to be in this field with people who are going to act like that? No wonder kids act the way they do. Teachers act that frickin' way. That's why we can't discipline the kids, because the kids know teachers don't even have each other's backs, aren't being friendly to each other. So why would they want to do it? And that's the biggest thing. That was horrible. We should not, as teachers, we should be focusing on what the student needs. What can we do to make a student successful? Not, oh my God, am I going to fill out that checkbox to get that done before the end of the year? Oh my God, did I do this random thing that I didn't even know about until like yesterday and it's due today? Then I got to get done to say that I'm covering this material, instead of, again, what a student needs to succeed. Why is that not our focus? Why is that not the main thing? Making sure students have what they need. Teaching them important skills they're going to need in life. Like being kind to each other. How is that not an important aspect? They touch on it, but it's not a requirement. Yes, math is a requirement. Sure, we teach different methods for math. But there are some things, like when I was teaching the 6th grade math, there were things I was teaching I had not seen since I was out of high school. Why are we teaching this to kids when in reality, they don't need it? They should be learning social awareness, social skills, especially those that grew up during COVID and they missed all the social awareness aspects. Why? Why is it that we are teaching things that won't do them any good? I agree. We need to fix the reading programs. We need to get them to read and write better. But we're sitting in a training, And I'm like, well, I give a 1 for that because they didn't punctuate, they didn't capitalize. And the response was, well, why is that important? We're not grading them on spelling and grammar. We're grading them on the content that they write. What? No. Spelling and grammar should be very important. Those should be like top of the line things that we focus on. Sentence structure, capitalization, all those should be super important. Why are we not grading them on those aspects? Why is that the minimum? Why? I don't understand. Why is grading them on basics unheard of nowadays? I always got graded on if I used a period properly, if I capitalized properly, if it was a complete sentence. Now it's more of, well, did they meet the content? Did they answer the question? Did they restate the question? Did they explain the answer? It doesn't matter if it's spelled right. Did they explain the answer? Did they respond to it? There's this thing called RACE. Response, answer, cite, and something else. But it's like, why are we not focusing on grammar and spelling and conventions and how it looks formatting wise? That's why we have a big writing problem right now, because nobody is focusing on those aspects anymore because they're considered unimportant. Teaching is very troubling. If you are looking to get into teaching, good luck. I was essentially in the teaching field for 13 years, and I never want to go back. There's just way too much hassle, way too many politics involved with teaching. Schools don't care what's going on if there's trouble, because it makes their school look bad. It's sad. We are focused, the teaching industry is focused on the wrong aspects. State tests should not be a thing. There were students that are freaking out over state tests. There are teachers that freak out over state tests because the teachers pay and the new teachers, what's the word I'm looking for? Progress. They're on new teachers are on this probation period, and those test scores affect all that stuff. So why all these tests do is to teach a test. That's actually it. We are there to teach kids how to take a test, not what they learned. What did they actually understand from the material? Did they test well? Okay, cool, they tested well, then they're good. Move on to the next subject. Oh, well, there's no time. They didn't test well, there's no time to go back. If you go back, then you sabotage the next several months because you're going to be well behind of where you need to be. It should not be like that. It really shouldn't. And it sucks that's how we are, and it sucks when administration is terrible, doesn't give a damn about the teachers, they just care about whatever their image looks like. There was a student who pulled a gun on the behavior specialist. It was a Nerf gun, thankfully. But they said to the behavior specialist, I have a gun and I'm going to shoot you. And then they pulled out a Nerf gun from their backpack and shot the person. The person was very distraught. And that person left for a day and was like, I don't want to work with that student ever again. And the school's like, okay, cool. Next week, okay, you're back with that student. And then they wondered why that behavior specialist quit after 3 weeks later. I think it was. It's really not worth it. And it's sad to say that, because there are so many great things about teaching. Watching a student like go, oh my God, I totally understand that. Was great. I had a student who we were in reading group and they're reading really well, and another asks, how do you read so good? And the student says, it's because I watch anime subtitled. And it was hilarious. It's like, yes, that was awesome. When you get to see the students when they learn something, like, oh my God, that is so cool. But then there's so many bad things that go on that are against your control, but you're the one getting blamed for it. If you have a parent who doesn't show up for parent-teacher conferences and they don't respond to emails, that kid's just going to keep misbehaving. There are so many problems with teaching, and again, we teach on the wrong things. We don't focus on what we should focus on because it doesn't meet state standards. The state tells you that they need to answer these questions on the test. They need to be able to do this on the test. That's what you have to teach for. It doesn't matter. They could be the smartest individual ever. If they don't test well, then the teacher did a poor job of teaching them. That's basically what it comes down to. If you have these things called iReady, where the beginning, middle, and end of the school year, they do iReady testing. If the student doesn't grow, you did things wrong. The hard part is there was a student who broke into tears because they worked so hard the entire school year. They got the exact same score at the end of the year test that they had at the beginning of the year test. That student burst into tears and was crying for like 2 hours because their score did not go up. Because we teach kids that their score going up is what matters most. And yes, I know data is... That's how you show data. That's how you show a student grows. But not every student tests well. There could be a student that could be the smartest individual. They know every single thing, but the moment they get that test, they bomb it badly because either multiple choice, the way the questions are worded, they think, oh, that's the answer, or they second guess themselves. Or they just stress themselves out so much they're not even understanding what is being asked, and they bomb it. And the whole thing is, okay, well, your student's stupid because they bombed this test. What else? There was something else I wanted to mention. I keep looking at my notes trying to remember what else I had to talk about. I know I'm missing something and I don't think I wrote it on here. But either way, teaching is hard. Teaching is annoying, especially if you don't have a grade level team or teammates that are there to help you out. I had in April of last year, I had things that were, I was told, oh yeah, you could have done this and this. Well, why didn't you show me that back in September? Well, you didn't ask. How was I supposed to know that existed how was I supposed to ask if I didn't know they existed until just now? Excuse me? Isn't it your job as my teammate to show me these things as soon as possible at the beginning of the school year so I know I can use them for the entire school year? It doesn't work like that, sadly. It's basically if one teacher can make themselves look better in front of administration by throwing 10 other teachers under the bus, they will. There are teachers that will do that. And it's sad and disgusting. Yes, you can't always control a student. You can do the best you can. But if you don't have administrative support to help you out, nothing's going to happen. There was one student who was in trouble all the time. Nothing happened about it. All it was, well, you got to control that student better. How am I the one who has to control it better? I'm doing everything that I can. I'm trying to be consistent with the rules. I've taken away their recess multiple times. They don't care. And if they don't care, how is a teacher supposed to control that? Because the student doesn't care and administration doesn't care enough because, again, they don't want to get sued. to discipline that that individual. So therefore, the teacher gets written up or the teacher gets blamed for their behavior. It's a messed up situation. I really feel bad for anyone going into teaching. The hostility to other teachers that older teachers have at times, depending on the school you go to. All the quotas, the read plans, the forms that nobody can properly train you on, that they don't even train you on in a master's program. It's just not worth the hassle. And it's really disappointing. Oh, and the other funny thing is, everything is controlled by computers. So if the internet goes down in your school, you can't photocopy or print anything out. You can't photocopy anything. You can't access a lot of your data, a lot of what you need to show off, because it's all done electronically. So if that internet goes down, you are screwed. There is no backup. Like I said, you can't even make photocopies. So you can't just say, okay, well, I'm going to print out copies of the math lesson that I need to teach the students, or I'm going to print out the worksheets so that we can at least do something in class time. No, there is none of that, because you can't print, because all the printers are set up to your ID, so they can also basically watch of what you're printing, how much you're printing. Are you printing in color? Are you printing in black and white? Micromanagement. That is the thing about teaching. Our principal last year would set their laptop carts out in the hallway in front of the classrooms and watch what the teacher was doing the whole time. They were watching. I even had one day other principals from around the district were coming into the school to look at other classrooms. Some of the principals walk into my classroom, and my principal says, no, not this one, that one, and redirects them to another classroom. She would not let them come into my classroom to watch what I was teaching. And a few of the students were like, what, did we scare them away? Because this teacher did not want me to be in their school at all. They had this bias against me, which was amazing, because I knew this teacher this principal when she was a teacher for 11 years, and she completely lost my respect in less than a school year. I was so disgusted for how this person turned out as a principal. And it was sad, because I was like all excited for when she got the job 2 years ago, and then she ended up being a nightmare. She was power hungry. So yeah, teaching, it sucks that it turned out so bad. But if you have watched this video, I know I just went on and without like complete structure. I originally planned to, but it didn't work out that way. But hey, that's the point of these Let's Talk videos. So thank you so much for watching. Click like, subscribe, the bell notification, whatever else YouTube has you clicking on to support me. You can support me on Patreon and Twitter and Bluesky at tokuaannetwork. Facebook, Instagram, Discord, Kaiju no Kami. Website is creativitybydesignllc.com. You can also buy Kaiju no Kami merchandise at creativitybydesignllc.com/shop. Let me know in the comments what you think of this Let's Talk. Were you bored with it? Did you find it engaging? Are you a teacher? Are you not a teacher? Let me know. Was there anything I missed on talking about? Do you think I'm completely wrong? Maybe your viewpoint is, oh my God, that is not how it is at all for my school, my experience. Let me know. And until next time, bye.